Conversations with G on a Monday evening here on the Heal with Gwenda page. And the G is me. I'm Gwenda, so welcome to the Heal with Gwenda and the Conversations with G. These conversations are usually for you to be able to ask your questions around holistic wellness. And as hi Bronwyn, great to see you, not at work this evening. Holistic wellness in my case is natural holistic healing. I am a mentor and teacher and a master teacher in all levels of your wellness from a holistic perspective. So if you are very much into, shall we say, the medical world, the pharmaceutical world, then my teachings will be outside of your scope. But they're certainly not outside of my skill set. Now then, last week, I responded to people contacting me in regards to their children being able to hear things and see things that they cannot see themselves and not knowing what to do with their children that can do that. And as a result of that, I've had contact from adults who want to know about adults who can see things and hear things that other people cannot. So what I'd like to do first, there's always got to be that stray hair, doesn't there, is to actually talk about how this can come about. Because last week my emphasis was on helping people understand that naturally gifted people are born that way. They are not people who have gone off and done a course or decided that they wanted to be. Hi, Julia. Fantastic to see you from all the way from the east, though. Great. Thank you. It's not about people who have gone off and done a course. And as I said last week, no issue with doing courses. You might have some new insights this evening on those things. And that's what I plan to bring to you, is new insights. And I wish I could find a way to block out that reflection in my glasses, and I'm sorry about that. So let's first have a look at the gifted child who is born with the ability to see, hear, taste, smell, feel, spirit. And by spirit, I mean the being, the essence of what was once a living soul. And that spirit can come from any decade, any century. So, for example, I can go to someone's house who is having a whole lot of trouble in the house, and I can find that it's actually due to the traditional landowners of that land. It's nothing to do with the house. It's to do with the spirit who own the land and who live on the land there. And as I said at the beginning, if you are a medical kind of world person, pharmaceutical kind of world, and you're a non-awakened person, then my teachings will be outside of your scope of understanding, and that's perfectly fine. However, there are some things that may be helpful to you or a family member or a friend that I'll talk about this evening. So, for people who are born able to see, smell, taste, hear, and sense spirit, that's something that the child grows up with. And if they are fortunate, good evening, Chantel Rose, if they are fortunate to have family who are understanding and who do not try and shut them down, then they will grow with their gift and they'll become accustomed to how to use it or how to work with it. If they are not with a family who are receptive and supportive, then the child becomes known as having a mental imbalance or a mental issue. And as I discussed last week, that then becomes a label for life, not a very nice label. How can an adult suddenly find that they can hear, see, smell, or feel things that they couldn't feel before. So that's what I'm going to talk about this evening, because there are people around who were not born as gifted seers or visionaries. How does that come about? Well, it comes about through a shift in consciousness. It comes about through an awakening, through maybe being curious and going along to the likes of a spiritual church or a spiritual group where they do what's called circle work. And when they do circle work, they open the crown chakra and they open the ability to be able to receive spirit messages or to be able to feel. It really depends on the level of awakening and the consciousness of the person. Now, some people go and do this out of curiosity, and they just want to know what ticks, what things are. And they end up in a world of trouble, because they end up not being able to understand what's happening to them. They can end up seeing things crawling across their ceiling. They can end up seeing into strange patterns that open up in their lounge rooms or in their bedroom. And that's because the place they've gone to has not actually been very proficient, or shall I say even professional, because this is a very important aspect of life and it's not something that should be meddled with, played with, or treated lightly. So once they have been opened to accessing the different realms, the different energies, there is a plethora of things that will visit and that will show themselves to them. Now, that can actually make that person feel like they are going mad, because they were not born with this ability, so it's brand new to them. They have what is called the conditioned mind running the show. So to have these sudden awarenesses is too much. And if I say to you in layman's terms, it's enough to fry the brain. And I mean that. It's enough to send some people mad. And it really can send you mad. As I said, it's not something to take lightly. It's not something to play with, and definitely not something to meddle with. Other ways that you can have your consciousness shifted and you can become more awakened is through meditation. Now, I get to work with a lot of people who have been caught up in the new wave that meditation is the way to be, meditation is the way to live. But whenever I ask them, what is their intention with meditation? How are they using it? I can tell you 1 out of 20 can give me an answer to that. Nobody else can. So meditation is another way of opening your consciousness and increasing your level of awareness. So please find out more about meditation, understand it more, and then grow with it. Grow with it so that it becomes something absolutely wonderful for your life and not a nightmare for your life. Remember too, please, that these sessions are for you to ask questions. So please feel free to put your comments or your questions in the chat box. And if I say anything that that triggers you or that you get confirmation of, I'd love to see your smiley faces or your thumbs up. So I know you're there too. I'm not talking to myself. Not that that bothers me, because I can talk to spirit anytime. So I'm never lonely, if I can put it that way. Good evening, Anita, all the way from America. Lovely to see you on here this evening. So aside from that's beautiful, Julia. You've been able to see your angels surrounding you, but I think I freaked out a little as I haven't been able to see them again. You might very well have freaked out with seeing them. You can also have got your conscious mind in the way out of that fear and that suddenness, because it can be too sudden. And all it is that is blocking you. Your conscious mind is blocking you. So if you were to go into a lovely quiet space and actually ask for God's light to come to you, you'll be able to see again. You will see the light. You will see their images. It's simply beautiful. From Jersey, that's awesome, Anita. I'm delighted to see you here this evening, since I often follow you on your beautiful posts. So another way that your awareness can shift and your awakening can shift so that you have more connection with spirit and being able to see, hear, smell, taste is actually through trauma and through surgery. When I was a young nurse, I'll come back to that for you, Julia. When I was a young nurse, my cousin's husband had a very, very bad motorbike accident, and he had a lot of brain damage as a result of the accident, along with many other head injuries, like all his shattered jaw and everything. But after they let him out of hospital, he would complain about hearing voices, and he'd never heard voices before that accident. So an accident, something that is a severe trauma, can actually shift your energetic bodies, and it can shift what we call your soul or your spirit. So if you are an awakened person or someone who is going through consciousness, you might have heard the term a soul split or soul fragmentation. So if you go through a very severe trauma, and this same thing happens in surgery, if you have a long time of operation in the theatres, you can suffer from, I really don't like that word, you can experience a soul fragmentation, or when they're trying to wake you up, you don't come back into your physical self fully. You leave part of yourself out in the heavens, or just outside, and it's not good. So when you have anything like that go on, then you are very likely to start to hear voices. You won't understand them, and it can sound as if they are giving you orders, as if they're commanding you to do things. And this is where everybody starts to get a fried brain. Everybody starts to get a whole lot of problems through. Good evening, Chelsea. This is where it becomes a really serious problem for people. When they are hearing voices, they're not used to it, they are not a gifted soul, they don't understand what has happened. And that's where they become what is known as schizophrenic, bipolar, multi-personalitied, and they get labelled, and it is a very serious matter. And unfortunately, same as I mentioned last week about children who can see, those people end up being medicated. And the medication actually makes the experience and what's happening to them a whole lot worse. It does not help. And I really don't care if there's anyone here who is from the medical world. It's a fact, and I'm more than happy to debate it with you, and I'm more than happy to do even some experiments, research with you. So I can afford to stand my ground on this. It is a matter of lifetime experience and knowledge and wisdom for me. So grief, trauma, surgery, doing courses, doing meditation without understanding it fully, attending the likes of spiritual churches are all ways of bringing about the opportunity for you to hear, feel, taste, smell, sense, spirit. Meddling, curiosity, and playing with things. Now, even playing with the likes of tarot cards is opening yourself for visitation from spirit. Thank you for the hearts. That's lovely. You can be open to be more aware. Under really good guidance, you will always be safe. I'm really appreciating the hearts. Thank you. Under really good guidance, your ability to be more aware, more conscious, actually helps you live a much better life in this third dimensional world. Left unattended and opened incorrectly leads you to a life of misery, of danger, and a life that certainly isn't the one that you signed up for to come into this world. So the issues are, and it's a little bit like Julia mentioned, you freak out. It's actually in my notes, Julia. You freak out. Now, what's Anita saying? I've been told by many that I have many angels surrounding me and I'm protected. Often I feel very protected and calm during stressful times. Anita, that's also because you have a very strong faith. And faith will always see you through stressful times. Faith will never let you down. This is another very interesting aspect of this, because most often people who have been suddenly opened or who've been meddling, gone on those different things that I've mentioned a few moments ago, they don't have faith and they don't actually understand. So that's why the spirit can actually make a whole lot of trouble and become troublesome for those people. So what can you do? How do you deal with this? Well, Bronwyn, who's on, won't be at all surprised when I say you learn to ground, you learn to cleanse, you learn to clear your energies. You learn to protect, clear, and cleanse your home environment. But first up, you must know how to protect your energy bodies. You must also know how to harness your mind and own your mind, because your own mind can run amok with you, let alone wanton spirit who are messing with you. And that's exactly what they do. They mess with you. So if you can't harness your own mind, then you need to learn the techniques to harness it. If you are like Julia and Anita and you want to know how to connect with your angels, how to connect, angels are different to spirit, remember. So if you want to connect with your angels, then faith, belief, trust are your greatest keys. And to remain in a place of very powerful and strong prayer, and to know that you are grounded so that your head isn't all over the place. And welcome them. Welcome them to share with you the light. Welcome them to share with you things that are going to help you in your life. Now that is to get more awareness with angels. That's not spirit. When we're talking spirit, I'm going to introduce some other levels here. So when we're talking spirit, as I said at the beginning, we're talking about the essence of a person who has lived a life in this world. So it's essentially their spirit, the essence of their being that has not left this world, or it continues to transition itself backwards and forwards between this level of existence and another level of existence. So do you really want to speak to them? Do you think you really need to? I'm asking you a very serious question here. Oh, good evening, Teresa. How lovely. If you want to connect with spirit, then you need to understand a lot more about consciousness, awakening, and your reason for wanting to speak to them. Because believe me, they will speak to you quicker than you can blink your eyes. And they can be speaking to you all the time that you go to the likes of a meditation class, even a sound healing. You might go to the spiritual church or something like that, and they will be around talking to you because they know that you are looking, that you are curious. So you need to have your boundaries in place. You need to understand how to keep yourself secure. Grounding, cleansing, clearing are the three most powerful. Prayer, faith, belief tops those three. Because it's through prayer, belief, and faith that you can only ever be in what I term as God's light. And you will always be safe in God's light. It doesn't mean that Spirit won't try and connect with you. What it does mean is they have a much harder time. Thanks again for the hearts. They have a much harder time trying to get through to you. If you are walking around wantingly lost, if you self-medicate, whether that be with alcohol or drugs of any kind, then you are opening yourself up to the likes of attracting spirit. And again, that's not something that you really want to be doing. A lot of people will self-medicate because of trauma in their life, because they can't manage the stress that they're going through at the particular time. But when they do that, it drops their vibration, it drops their level of their own personal light, and it makes them a free-for-all for wanton spirits and troubled spirits who wander around all the time. So learn to harness your mind, learn to understand what it is that you are wanting when it comes to consciousness and awareness, and work with someone who can really, really help you, someone who actually understands. And as I mentioned last week, I'm not going to apologize. I'm going to say that is not people who have done a course. You need someone in this particular environment, this part of spiritual work, you need someone who is naturally gifted and who really understands what it's like and understands how to work with spirit and how to be safe. You need to know how to be discerning who's talking to you, who's not, which ones you want to welcome to speak to. But your biggest question with that is why? Why do you want to hear from spirit? So let's have a look at the likes of mediumship and people who run dinners or evenings out with a night with spirit. And I myself have done that. I used to do it a long time ago. That again is entirely different because we know who we're talking to. We know who we've invited in. What I'm talking about here is people who do not know the difference and people who just hear voices all the time. So if you know of anyone who has had a very severe trauma, accident, surgery, and they just haven't been right since that's happened, and they talk about hearing voices or seeing things all the time, please send them to someone who understands. Don't send them to a psychiatrist or psychologist. They do not understand. And as I said last week, even if it's a psychologist who does know that spirit exists or that has a good belief system, they can't do anything for that person. They're not allowed to. They must work within the rules of guidelines of their practice, of which they have their degree. So meddling, curiosity and playing, don't do it. Hearing voices, I don't hear voices at all. Not in this way. Seeing angels, talking to my guides, knowing who I'm talking to, absolutely. Knowing who I'm talking to when I'm dealing with someone who is hearing voices, absolutely. That I do. So if you have any questions, now Julia, how do I unblock that? So you're actually asking about seeing your angels, which is different to just hearing wanton spirit or those voices that do send people mad when they aren't able to manage them properly or aren't helped in a way that's helpful for them. But being able to unblock it, Julia, is coming into a space of feeling very confidently safe and knowing what it is that you want from the angels, knowing what it is that you want with them showing themselves to you. So having, in other words, having a very strong intention. Now, I know that you have a beautiful ritual that you do every day. Let's say you move that ritual outside to being in a chair prior to getting into your ritual space. If Julia wants to put on the comments that what her ritual is, I'm going to leave that to her. I feel that's her space to say that. But she does do something very beautiful, which has actually helped her heal from some very nasty skin psoriasis. But being able to put yourself in a lovely place of calmness, understanding your intention, then calling upon your angels, then you will be able to see them again. Now, one thing about angels is that once they have connected with you, they don't believe that they have to show themselves all the time for you to know they're there. What they do look upon is your unwavering faith to know that they are there. You see, when you have to see something all the time, when you have to have it proven to you, you've got yourself caught in this third dimensional world. You're not coming from a place of unconditional love, unconditional acceptance, and a space of a very open heart. So anytime that you find yourself having to be validated in something, particularly around seeing your angels or hearing the messages from your angels or your guides, then you've slipped into the conditioned world. Come on back out of it and come into a space of pure love, joy, and faith. And it's all you need. It takes practice, I might say. So children are not the only ones who hear, sense, spirit. Adults can suddenly have that come upon them. And as I said, that is through a variety of reasons. So if you come across someone who says that they are suddenly hearing voices and they're uncomfortable, please don't rush them off to be seen by someone who's going to medicate them. See if you can locate someone who can help them first and find out what has happened. Very sadly, in the case of my cousin's husband all those years ago, it was enough to cause him to lose his life. And that is what can happen. And that's why I say playing, meddling, being curious with spirit is dangerous. He didn't do any of that. He was opened to being bombarded by spirit simply through a very severe accident. No cause of his own. And that was very sad, and he's not alone. That happens quite frequently. So be aware, be grounded, get yourself into a better place of understanding things that you can't see, and know that you are in no danger provided you have very good foundations, very good practices, and that you honour who you are. And the funny thing is, you must also honour spirit, because it's when you don't honour spirit that you will run into problems. It's a little bit like leaving your car running and the keys in it, and you meander off and expect in this day and age that it's going to be there when you come back. It's not going to be, is it? So opening yourself willy-nilly and inviting spirit, or letting them get a hold of you, get a hold of your mind, is no different to leaving your car running and your doors open, because that's what you've done with yourself. And will you be the same? Will you be there when you decide to come back to yourself? No, you won't. You will find that you are being bombarded by dozens and dozens of voices. Is it okay to be hearing voices? No, it's not. Definitely not. It's not something that you need to have in your life, and it's not something that you're meant to have in your life. The other thing that you can do is you can actually command them to leave. And I mentioned this for the children last week as well, teaching children who hear and see spirit to command them to leave. But you can't do that from a place of anger, because spirit are actually very powerful. So commanding them to leave means that you are making a stand of ownership of your own energy, of your own person, and you have the right to do that. So you can command them to leave and ask that whoever needs to collect them, take them to where they belong. So in my instance, I use the sweepers of the tapestry, and they are very powerful, and they will come through and sweep just as it sounds, and they sweep for everything. Now, not to confuse you, but if you have been asking to hear from a loved one that you are grieving, missing terribly, you must let the sweepers of the tapestry know, or the angels of mercy, they are also who I call for. You must let them know that you do want to hear from your loved ones. So what you can say is that you ask for all beings, energies and entities and spirit who have no place around you, no place in your home, that they be gathered and taken to where they belong. Now, not to go too deep into this, but where they belong, all I'm going to say is not everybody comes from the same place. So you can't ask for them to all be gone to what you might perceive as heaven, or what you might perceive as your place of origination. So you might think of yourself as being a Palladian or a Syrian or one of the other galactic beings, but not everyone else is from there. So it's no good asking that they be returned there. You simply ask that they return to where they belong. And wherever they belong, that's not your bother. It's not your interest. Snooping, being curious, will lead you down a merry path of headaches, in a word. And in a bigger word, it'll lead you down a path of madness. And trust me, you don't want to go there. Have you ever seen the movie One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest? It'll give you a good idea. So that brings us to the end of this evening's chat. You might want to watch again for parts that you missed out on, and have a think about it. And you're more than welcome to private message me. You're more than welcome to leave more messages on this particular video stream, and I'll be able to come back and answer you. But I hope you found it enjoyable. I hope you found it insightful and helpful. And I thank you very, very much for being here. And remember, you are more than welcome to send me a topic that you would like to discuss or to hear about. Otherwise, I'll pluck one out of the hat and we'll have a chat. Julia and Anita from across the seas and across the borders, thank you so much. Chantel and Chelsea and everyone, Teresa, everyone else that's been here this evening, thank you very, very much. May you all be blessed in the light of the Lord. May you all be safe in God's light and not be curious to play with spirit. Until I see you next time, have a most wonderful evening or day, and take good care. Bye for now.